I don't want people to fall for this BS again. And I want to ask you about this story. Who do you think in the end is going to have the last laugh? It was brought to my attention that Bernie Sanders is at it again. You see, this call went out from Sam Brody. Inbox: Bernie Sanders is launching a national tour to fight oligarchy beginning this weekend in Omaha and Iowa City. Okay, let's stop there for a second before I get to what the message says. I'm all for fighting against the oligarchy. All for it. But this is a copycat. I'll show you the copycat in just a second. I'm going to show you what Bernie Sanders is really trying to do. It says Bernie Sanders next weekend will launch a new national campaign titled Fighting Oligarchy, Where We Go From Here, which will focus on the takeover of the national government by billionaires and large corporations and the country's move towards authoritarianism. The tour will target working class districts won by Biden in 2020 and a Republican House member in 2024. So stop right there. Look at where he's choosing to focus, right? He's going to focus on districts that Biden won in 2020, but a Republican won as a congressional candidate. Look at the areas that he's choosing to target, right? Omaha, Nebraska. So it looks like he's going there first. For the first leg of the tour, Senator Sanders will hold town halls in Omaha and Iowa City, where he will discuss the most pressing issues facing working class people and outline how Americans can fight back against President Trump and Elon Musk, who are quickly moving the country towards authoritarianism, oligarchy, and kleptocracy. So Omaha and Iowa City. Why did he pick those two places to start with? Think about that for a second. Because what Bernie's trying to do is he's trying to get white working class voters back into the Democratic Party. That's what this really is about. This push here from Bernie Sanders, the national tour to fight the oligarchy, is him trying to get back some of these working class white voters who maybe some of them supported Trump, maybe some of them just did not vote at all, but he's trying to get them, that base, to come back into the Democratic Party. Now, one of the problems with this is if you're going to fight against the oligarchy, you need to acknowledge the oligarchy in your own party. When Bernie Sanders was running for president in 2020 and 2016, this is something that he called out multiple times. Billionaire money, all of this money that's coming in, corporate money, running grassroots campaign is what he did. And he was able to raise a lot of money off of small dollar donations. But the reality is, this is not just Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Both are billionaires, yes. But Bernie Sanders typically votes along with the Democratic Party, who very much takes billionaire money, whether it's from George Soros or Bill Gates, just to name a few. Don't forget about Michael Bloomberg. Both parties take billionaire money. The oligarchy didn't just appear under Donald Trump's presidency for 2025. Oligarchy was still here under Biden and Kamala Harris presidency. So one of the things I want you to understand and pay attention to what the Democratic Party does is that when they are not in power, all of a sudden they want to get up and fight. Let's fight. But when they're in power and they have the House and they have the Senate, they decide to do nothing. Because the reality is they don't really want to do anything for the working class people. Why didn't Bernie Sanders launch this national tour under Biden and Harris's campaign? Under their presidency, excuse me. Why did he launch it then? Tell me. Was there not an oligarchy at that point in time? There was. There has been as long as I've been alive. Why does he decide to launch it now that Trump is in office? Didn't Biden take billionaire money? He doesn't do it because he knows that that would be a mark against the party that he chooses to caucus with most of the time. Although he's a registered independent, he caucuses with the Democratic Party. There are a number of times where Bernie Sanders' vote probably could have made a difference if you're looking at things to go more in a left direction, or even when it comes to some of these war legislation, and he chooses not to. Professor Zinkas brings this up right here. So why didn't he do that when 150 billionaires supported Biden, then Kamala in the 2024 race? Can't take this nonsense seriously. So this is a good question again. Remember, Kamala Harris had billions of dollars for her campaign. Bernie Sanders told you to support Kamala Harris, right? Isn't that what he told you to do? I'll remind you of that if you forgot. Where was this push to fight back against the oligarchy when the party that he caucuses with were lining up billionaire donors? Where was that? Where was that push when Kamala Harris said, I'm gladly and happily taking money in support from Goldman Sachs? Where was that? None of that was nowhere to be found. This tour that Bernie Sanders is doing is just another attempt to put you back into the Democratic Party. Because you're not serious if you're talking about fighting against oligarchy and billionaire money, if you are still telling people to support the party that takes billionaire money. You're not serious. And he's also copying people. This is a copycat. Bernie Sanders, I find it very interesting that you decide to do this tour against the oligarchy after Jill Stein and Kshama Sawant announce that they are doing an organizing conference to fight back against the rich and the two parties. Now, Jill and Kshama were on my show to discuss this, and they've been on other shows as well. And I just want to remind everybody that Jill and Kshama announced this last year. You think Bernie Sanders didn't see this? You think Bernie Sanders doesn't know who Jill Stein and Kshama Sawant are? He knows exactly who they are. This conference that Jill Stein and Kshama Sawant put together with Chris Hedges, by the way, fight the rich and stop their two parties. So I find it funny, and that is going to be February 22nd, 10 a.m. Pacific time. She'll be on the West Coast. So I find it very funny that Bernie Sanders comes in and now he's doing this tour after this was announced. Now he's doing a tour. Let's fight back against the oligarchy. So let me explain to you what is really happening here, because I do not want people to get duped again. I was very, very, very surprised to see people's eyes light up once again. The moment that email went out, there are a number of people who were like, oh, I think this means he might run for president again. Oh my God, that would be great. Do it again. Just like that, people's eyes started to light up again. Just like that, people started to fall for it all over again. And I'm making very sure that my viewers don't fall for that. Bernie Sanders exists in this political space the same reason why AOC exists in this political space, to prevent any type of activism or organizing on the outside to lead you in a different direction. Don't you think it's a little bit strange that this event was already announced? Don't you find it odd that Bernie Sanders, instead of reaching out to Jill Stein and Kshama Sawant and Chris Hedges and joining them along with this effort, which is things that he agrees in, don't you find it strange that instead of joining them to do that, he launches a separate thing, same message? Because his tour, again, is to bring you back into the Democratic Party. His tour is not to get you out of the two-party system. It's to keep you in it. Bernie Sanders exists in this political space to prevent any type of third-party movement. He exists in this political space to prevent any type of organizing on the outside from turning voters into something else and away from the Democratic Party. It is very important that you understand that. And AOC for the very same thing. Why do you think AOC heavily attacked Jill Stein the way that she did? She exists as a distraction. She is there to keep you where you are. She is there to prevent you from turning your face and turning your cheek and looking at something else. She is a distraction, and I do not want my viewers to be distracted. Those of us who are activists and organizers, we have seen this game before. Every time we try to organize something on the ground on our own, somebody from the Democratic Party just happens to show up. Let us bring this into the Democratic Party as well. Didn't you see that happen with BLM? If it's not the Democratic Party, it's corporate donors, it's corporate sponsors. You see, I don't take sponsorships on this show. There is a reason for that. They co-op it, they water it down, and they take the movement from the grassroots so that nothing gets done. There is a reason why some people will not have me on their show, because I will say just this. Because they want their viewers to believe that these people are there to help you. These people are not there to help you. These people are there to help their pockets and to keep you in a system that continues to keep you poor or weak. So Bernie Sanders, is splitting the left. That's what he's trying to do here. He's trying to split this so that this gets less support and his tour gets more support. And I'm telling you guys, don't fall for it, goddammit. If you look at what they're fighting for in the wars, stop mass deportations, $25 an hour minimum wage, this is everything that Bernie Sanders agrees with, yet he is going to start something separate. Shama Sawant was correct when she said the road through the Democratic Party as a progressive leads to a graveyard. There is no movement for you in there. Bernie knows this. In fact, if you think that he forgot, or if you forgot, I just want to remind you, every time Bernie Sanders said, we got this movement, we're going to fight back against the billionaires, and he cheap herded you right back into the Democratic Party and said, support the corporate establishment. 2016, Hillary Clinton.
And we have got to elect Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine. Brothers and sisters, this is the real world that we live in. Trump is a bully and a demagogue. Trump has made bigotry and hatred the cornerstone of his campaign. Thank you.
So that was Bernie Sanders being booed by his own supporters when he told them to vote for Hillary Clinton to stop Donald Trump. By the way, we're talking about the Ukraine war. Who's closer at ending that war? Was it the Democratic Party or is it Donald Trump right now? Once upon a time, Bernie Sanders used to call for, we got to end these wars, but he's voting for a lot of these things. Let's fast forward. Let's go to 2020 when he told you to support Joe Biden.
And we need Joe Biden as our next president. Let me take this opportunity to say a word to the millions of people who supported my campaign this year and in 2016. My friends, thank you for your trust, your support, and the love you showed Jane, me, and our family. Together, we have moved this country in a bold new direction, showing that all of us, black and white, Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight, native-born and immigrant, yearn for a nation based on the principles of justice, love, and compassion. Our campaign ended several months ago, but our movement continues and is getting stronger every day.
The movement didn't continue, though. After Biden won, Bernie went back to sleep. Bernie said if he lost, he would be out in the street with his supporters. He was not. That did not happen. So the movement didn't continue. Okay. Now we're going to fast forward to 2024. Again, I'm trying to show you what Bernie Sanders is and what he is really all about. He is doing it yet again, and I will not let my audience fall for the BS. 2024, after a genocide.
I understand that there are millions of Americans who disagree with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris on the terrible war in Gaza. I am one of them. While Israel had a right to defend itself against the horrific Hamas terrorist attack of October 7th, which killed 1,200 innocent people and took 250 hostages, it did not have the right to wage an all-out war against the entire Palestinian people. It did not have the right to kill 42,000 Palestinians, 2/3 of whom were children, women, and the elderly, or injure over 100,000 people in Gaza. It did not have the right to destroy Gaza's infrastructure, housing, and healthcare system. It did not have the right to bomb every one of Gaza's 12 universities. It did not have the right to block humanitarian aid, causing massive malnutrition in children and, in fact, starvation. And that is why I am doing everything I can to block U.S. military aid and offensive weapons sales to the right-wing extremist Netanyahu government in Israel.
And who allowed all those things to happen? Wasn't that the Biden-Harris administration that allowed all those things to happen?
And I know that many of you share those feelings. And some of you are saying, how can I vote for Kamala Harris if she is supporting this terrible war? And that is a very fair question.
And there he goes again. So do you see how he even called it a war and not a genocide? I supported Bernie when he was running for president. I donated money to Bernie Sanders. Taught me not to donate to politicians again. I never, ever thought that he would move the way that he did. And now he's doing it again. And I'm here to warn you that this little tour that Bernie Sanders is talking about, he's trying to make it seem like it's just this fight back against the oligarchy, kind of like an Occupy Wall Street movement. But he made it very clear in the email he's focusing on certain areas that Biden won in 2020, but a Republican House member won also during that time. So what it is to tell you is that Bernie Sanders is once again trying to sheep herd you back into the party. Now, it was one thing to try to sheep herd people into the party during 2016. And you're like, oh, no, we fear Trump. Let's just go ahead and support Hillary after they even cheated you. And you didn't even have a backbone. You didn't even have a backbone to call it out and hold them accountable. No, you went out there on the road and you helped campaign for Hillary Clinton. The same people that they gave it to, they cheated you. That was one thing. And then there was even another thing for you to tell people after a damn genocide that you got to support Kamala Harris. How do you get worse than that, ladies and gentlemen? I want to say this again. Bernie Sanders and people in AOC, they exist in the political space to prevent any type of outside movement or outside third-party movement from ever taking fruition. You have to understand that. As much as she pointed her fingers at Jill Stein and said, oh, the Green Party needs to do this, needs to do that, she doesn't want that to happen at all. Bernie Sanders doesn't want that to happen at all. Hell, if you say Jill Stein in front of Bernie Sanders, he probably melt in the damn chair. Can't utter her name. Pretends like Jill and Shama don't exist, but he like to steal their ideas. I've been telling you guys this for a long time. A lot of these things that you see happen or come out of some of these these politicians' mouths, it came from the grassroots first. They get a hold of it, they water it down and run it as a political move. And as long as people continue doing this, we will never build something powerful outside of the two-party system. Bernie Sanders, if he really gave a damn about the oligarchy and about what was left of his movement, Bernie Sanders would have still been talking to you and marching with you and fighting with you in the damn streets after Biden won. It's a game. I don't want you guys to fall for this again. And I saw people falling for it, and I saw people getting excited about it. And I want you to hear what Shama had to say, and you'll see the difference between the two.
I served as the only socialist on the Seattle City Council for 10 years. In that decade, my council office led movements of working people to win historic victories, including the highest minimum wage in the country. I also saw firsthand how every and sadly, many labor leaders all work in concert together against the interests of workers. I can tell you from my experience, and it is increasingly evident to working people, that this system is completely irredeemable, as are both US political parties. We have no choice but to fight for radical change and for an end to the billionaire class, because the alternative is a hellscape on earth. The wildfires in Los Angeles are just the latest demonstration. Another is the fastest moving genocide of the 21st century, still underway in Gaza and likely to continue in some form, even with the ceasefire negotiated by Trump under the pressure of the anti-war movement and significant vote for Jill Stein.
So it's a longer thing here, but I do want you to hear what she said about fighting back against the two parties.
Workers strike back, including our upcoming week of action, February 8th to the 15th, to support Amazon workers in North Carolina, as well as our mass organizing conference in Seattle on February 22nd, where we'll be joined by Chris Hedges, Jill Stein, and working people from around the country to build our movement and to discuss how we can begin laying the foundation for a new major party for working people. The next day, on February 23rd, Worker Strike Back members will be voting at our first ever national convention in person in Seattle on our priorities for 2025, including
Fight the rich. Okay, so fight the rich, Medicare for all, in the genocide in Gaza, tax Amazon and big business, fund social housing, etc. So again, these are things that Bernie Sanders agrees with. So I think you guys can see the difference. There's no movement with inside all the people say, oh, we can still push and reform the Democratic Party. No, you can't. Bernie Sanders is living proof of that. How do you have a movement with hundreds and thousands of people out in the streets, and then you just turn on them like that and just flip and say, I'll just go along with the. What you see Shama doing, and for the people who say, where's Jill Stein? Where the fuck is Kamala Harris? Jill Stein's working with Shama Sawant to build a movement against the oligarchy. Where's Kamala? They know who these people are. They know they're activists. They know what they're really doing. And that's why they put everything that they could and threw it at them to try to stop them or silence them and to shut them down. Every independent media channel on YouTube should have had Shama Sawant on their show by now. Everyone should have had her on. And the reason why a lot of them will not bring her on is because she opposes both parties. She won the fight for 15 in Amazon, against Amazon in Seattle. She knows how to win. Chris Smalls also, he knows how to do this. And by the way, I don't see a lot of people talking about Chris Smalls anymore. All the love that people had for Chris Smalls after he won against Amazon and they created the first Amazon union. I don't see a lot of these people who said that Chris Smalls was their buddy. I ain't see these people have Chris Smalls on their show in the past 2 years. They don't care anymore because it's not trending. For the people who said build something with labor, what happened to all those people? Where they at? Where you at? Nowhere to be found, because as soon as presidential election season begins, it's let's just focus on who the Democrat candidate is going to be. And I'm here to tell you guys, today is a new day. If there's any wake up call that should have come for a lot of people that are on the left, and I mean the real left, and I ain't talking about you know, not like this so-called Hillary Clinton left, any wake up call that should have come is the fact that not just the fact that Trump won again, but the way that he won. And the way he came in and is doing whatever he wants, just write an executive order. Regardless, he is giving his base exactly what they were asking for. So this needs to be a big wake up call to those on the left, because the Democratic Party hasn't been doing it for us. They haven't been doing it. So why would you still support them? Gotta wake up. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.